AOA going straight into the display system that you have with Aspen, the Evolution system, which is, I mean, how many tens of thousands of these things are out there now?
We're coming up on our 10,000th install here really fast.
There you go,
so
outstanding.
We'll be doing very quickly.
I figured it had to be millions by now. I mean, you see the damn things everywhere.
I'd like it to be there. I hope we'll get there one day.
There you go. AOA, it's a technology that for some reason or another, general and much of business aviation has ignored. Anybody who's ever worked in the test flight community knows that kind of knowledge is life. It's all about attitude.
Right.
What brought this on? Tell me about the development cycle, and more important, how Aspen came up with an AOA solution that is truly unique.
Yeah. So, first of all, thanks for inviting me up here. I always love doing this every time. Each time you invite me, I always enjoy it. So, thanks a lot for that.
Especially since you got your cheering section out here making faces at you. So
exactly. Well, you know, Aspen's always been considered to be one of the innovators, and we pride ourselves on innovation and pride ourselves on developing products that not only improve situational awareness, but actually improve safety. And over the years, many of us are all pilots, and we have a lot of curiosity about angle of attack, because as you mentioned, in our community, you don't really understand what angle of attack is. You can intellectually understand it, and you can see it, but to actually know how to use it and what to do with it is not always clear. So many of the pilot community in our company and others started talking to one of our partners, who is one of our investors, a company called Cira out of Italy, who is one of our big investors, and they have a big research center, and we started talking about what angle of attack meant. And angle of attack has a lot of interest in Europe as well, because of the same reasons they are here. And not only that, having Cira being as part of the broader government part of it, they have access to military experiences and stuff, and of course angle attack is much more common in that type of thing. So we started talking together about what could be done to make angle of attack a more commonly used function in general aviation. Because the big thing is, people just weren't accepting it as much in the business jet, and more likely more so in the general aviation community. And we thought, well, a couple of things. First of all, angle attack is not integrated into the displays, integrated into a pilot scan. Also, angle of attack has some inherent issues with dealing with angle of attack when you need it most. You have a sensor that's sitting out on a wing. If you're in a slip or a crab, you got winds blowing, you have differences, you have issues associated with the probe itself, and the accuracy of it can be not as great at a time when you need it the most. So we kind of got together and decided the best way, you know, we have a beautiful display system with a nice AHRS. We have all the data associated with how aircraft flies. Why don't we take some of that data and try to develop an angle of attack that's deriving it from those variables? And so off we went and did this, and over the last 2 years we've come up with this design that in effect allows us to instantaneously calculate angle of attack from inputs from the gyros, from the accelerometers, from your heading, and GPS information to give you a view of your instantaneous angle of attack. So once you do that, then what do you do with it, right? I mean, what do you do with that? How do you present that to the pilot? An angle of attack, I always thought it was a device like a altimeter or a speed device where you look at the number and you shoot for a number, when in fact what you're really measuring is the reserve lift of the airplane, and everybody uses that terminology. I'm a pilot, I didn't really actually know what that really meant in terms of flying.
It just sounded really cool.
Oh, it sounds great, right? I mean, it sounds like you know what you're talking about when you say lift reserve. It's also a catchy phrase for marketing. But the reality is, what you're doing is really understanding what the energy state of your aircraft is. And by associating an angle of attack display, what you're really doing while you're trying to give them an angle attack view, you're really giving them how much reserve they have for lift. And if you start thinking about it in that term, then what you're doing is looking at trends. So when that needle's moving fast up there, you know you got to do something pretty fast. And if it's moving slow or it's moving the opposite direction, you know you're recovering in some way. So that whole process of thought process and actually physically flying it created this product for us and got us to where we are today.
Outstanding. Okay, let's talk about the practicality.
Okay.
You're a JoQ pilot, you're out flying, you've got the bestest, newest, mostest, newfangled stuff from Aspen. It's all there, it's glowing at you. The only thing it's missing is the Playboy channel, and I know that's coming next, possibly in our next April 1st edition. what kind of workflow? How is this going to be utilized? What are they going to see and hear, and how are they going to take that information in the average flight?
So I got a couple examples. I have a couple personal examples of my own flying, and as well as others. But literally what you're doing, is where this becomes very important to you, is takeoffs, landings, patterns, base to final, downwind to base turns, where you are distracted by a lot of different things going on around you, and also you are at a higher stress moment going on. So you find yourself getting where you have low margin before your stall or before you lose your lift. So once you have that, you have that knowledge or that understanding of that information. In the heat of the battle, you don't always, that's not what you're thinking about. You're thinking about who's coming down on the, where your traffic is, where traffic control's talking to you about, what the weather is, are you going to have to go around, so you're thinking about all that stuff. And so an angle of attack when you're flying, by displaying it in a manner that's in your field of view or in your scan, like military pilots often put it right above, where he can see it out the window. You now involve that in your scan. So let's use some examples. I'll use a personal example that I flew that actually did without angle of attack, and I've actually simulated after with angle attack. Coming on a downwind, I'm slowing up, I got my flaps down, I pull the power back, I'm getting ready to turn base, and they tell me to extend my downwind. And which is often the case at the airport I fly, and sometimes that extension can be quite long. Jets coming in, IFR traffic coming in, another guy cutting in front of me. And so I've slowed down, and they're telling me where the traffic's at, and I'm also looking over my shoulder where the runway's at, and watching my altitude so I don't go too fast. Before I know it, I'm getting pretty slow. I'm getting pretty close to stall speed, and which is fine. I've got under control. Then all of a sudden, the guy says, "We're going to extend you even farther." And my first thought is, well, if I'm going to extend further, I'm going to get my flaps up and get this drag out and just continue on down, and we'll deal with it. What I didn't realize is my power settings and where I was at. As soon as I put my flaps up, my stall horn went off immediately. Because I was that slow and I was that pitched up, and taking the flap out took the lift reserve that I had with my flaps and took it out. Unfortunately, training kicked in, pushed my nose down, everything was fine. But now I simulate that with angle attack. I do the exact same thing. I see the needle moving up towards the red zone. I see that I'm hovering near the red zone of the angle of attack. And on our display, because we display both flaps up and flaps down configurations, I can already see that my flaps up configuration is already well into the red zone. So during my normal scan of my speeds and altitudes, I see that, and I realize that before I put my flaps up to clean up, I need to pick up some speed, push my nose down, and get my airplane in a better energy state. And then I can avoid the situation altogether. So that's one example. Another example, missed approach go around. You're coming down really fast, you're on an ILS, you're getting low, and you have to do a missed approach. First thing you do is you push the power, pitch the nose up. Several of us, sometimes under stress, pitch the nose up too quickly with not enough power, but you can see that in angle attack. As soon as you get in that configuration, as you pitch the nose up to go, you see the needle moving up, you know right away that you don't pull it so far. It's immediately evident to you that what you can and cannot do. That's what angle of attack does for you. It's not a measurement device, it's a trending device of when your how fast you're using up that lift reserve, and that you need to do something about it before you use it up too quickly. That's the best way I can explain it as a 900-hour pilot who has not done a lot of crazy things, but in everyday flying, that's what it does for you. It gives you immediate awareness of what you can do with your airplane next.
I don't know, that pattern of double eagle can require a couple of crazy things here and there.
Oh yeah. That's because there's a lot of desert out there, so they can push you as far as they want out there.
On to the next state.
Yeah, that's right.
Arizona, what a concept.
That's right,
that's right.
That's right.
Excuse me, outside of the information provided by the display, are there any oral warnings or anything else that come with this?
So today, our initial certification will not have oral warnings.
Okay.
For a couple of reasons. When you integrate oral warnings into a system, you have to take into account all of the other aspects of the system. So when you have, for example, a dashboard mounted AOA with an oral alert, it's separate from the integrated system. So when you integrate something into a system, you have to take into consideration all the aspects of all the different types of warnings that can come from your system. And we felt that the initial instantiation of our design would be better to provide visual, allow some experiential feedback from that, introduce oral at some point down the road, where it makes sense, and it can be integrated into all of the other warnings and aspects that you have in a cockpit. So we've chosen specifically not to do the oral first.
Okay.
It's clearly coming, but right now we'd like to get the visual out there for the pilots to get some feedback and allow us to tweak whatever design parts we have, then add the oral at some point later. We also would like it someday, because most of the airplanes we have, we don't know what the flap position is.
No.
So you have to calibrate our system at pre-flight for flaps up and flaps down. We're going to integrate in the future those airplanes that do give you flap position.
Okay.
We're going to integrate that in, which will provide you even more accuracy from that standpoint. So we see it as an evolving thing. We really don't want to scare people off right away. And I know that seems silly, but if you throw too much out there, people will tend not to use it. So this is the first time it's been really heavily integrated into a certified system in the low-end GA community. And so we're easing it in that manner.
Well, it gives rise to two questions. One, installation. What's it going to take to put something like this in? You've got a pretty unique system, because in the past there are probes, there's this, there's that, you drill this, you do that, you bring out the big 5-pound hammer, and before you know it, you got yourself AOA indication, courtesy of the STC. But you've done something very different here from that standpoint. And also, once it's all installed and ready to fly and everything's all signed, sealed, and delivered, what's happening as far as getting the pilot acclimated and trained to the system? Okay,
so two very, very good questions. Installation, today if you go get an AOA, you're going to have to pay for your AOA, get it installed. Sometimes the installation cost could be 2 to 3 times, depending on your
I've seen some of the bills, it ain't pretty.
So what I know aircraft owners do understand this eventually, one way or another. What you pay for the equipment is not what you're paying to install.
No.
An AOA is an exceptionally onerous installation, because you're drilling holes, but you're not also drilling holes in your wing. And also where you place that probe can affect that quite a bit. So in our situation, we are a pure software install. So there are no physical changes to the aircraft required. You literally have an SD card that you pop into the front of our unit. It takes about 20 minutes at the most to put it in there, and you have to fly 2 configuration flights. You got to fly a configuration flight with your flaps up, so that the system can calibrate the gyros and accelerometers for that airplane when it's flying at a normal speed with flaps up. We do the same thing with flaps down on approach speeds, and we calibrate that. And those are the only calibrations there. It's a probably 35-minute flight maximum. Could be a little bit more depending on weather, and we need calm conditions to do it. But literally, once that's done, it is totally configured and ready to go. And that's all you need to do. So you eliminate all your installation costs, all the risks of poking holes in your airplanes, all the risks of touching your wing, which is always an issue. For those of us that have plastic wings, it's even a bigger deal.
Huge deal.
So it just simplifies that process totally. So,
excellent. So
we're really pleased about that, and it really follows our company moniker, our company process of easy to install. Because in the lower end GA community, there's constant talk about the cost of an upgrade versus the hull value and all that, and you have to be very sensitive to that. And people have to understand the installation can oftentimes make it untenable to install. So that's the installation side. Now the training side is a very interesting question, because the way AOA is today, it sits on your dashboard. It's for the most part in GA, it's a portable device.
Right.
And therefore, it's not really part of the training aspects of flying an airplane. We're now putting that right on the PFD, where when you're flying an aircraft, and we go into a lot of training aircrafts, it cannot be ignored. You have to integrate that into the training process, which is what we want. We want it to be an integral part of a pilot training process, that AOA is as an important part of their flying as is speeds and altitudes and attitudes. And so that requires now a training part of our strategy. And right now we're out talking to potential partners to develop training material that will be more visual in nature as opposed to handbook in nature, because AOA is, you can read all you want about AOA, but until you see it fly, until you experience it and use it in particular circumstances, you don't really recognize the value. Now that's a 900-hour pilot work, and maybe a guy that's been out there for 10,000 hours may think differently, but that's the way I look at it. So we're right now out looking with partners to develop training programs that schools can use, more importantly CFIs can use in their training for those with Aspen-equipped aircraft. And then we'll be seeing that evolving over the next 30 to 60 days as that comes out, as our product comes on the market, which we expect in July.
Okay, well that was one of my final questions on, so July. I know there isn't anything official yet, but just between you, me, everybody out there, ignore this for the moment. Price?
Oh, okay, so we're doing something we've never done before.
Okay.
We're not announcing price.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why.
If you have to ask.
If you have to ask, and I knew you'd ask, you'd never let that one go, Jim. For pricing, we're looking at multiple ways to price this thing.
Okay.
We want to make it priced or brought to the market in such a manner that it compels every Aspen owner to have one. Okay. Now, the answer to that always is free. I'd love to be able to give it for free.
Or have Petty Wagstaff deliver it or something like that.
That's right.
There you
or
go.
something.
Yeah, really.
Unfortunately, I still have to run a business. So we're trying to find the right combination of features and functions in our systems to price it appropriately.
There you go.
So that really it becomes almost a no-brainer for every Aspen customer to have it.
Okay.
Long-winded answer to an easy question, I know.
No, actually, not at all. It's a great detail. I wish we had more time on this. Before we go, though, I wanted to talk a little bit about what Aspen's doing with ADS-B. The 2020 mandate is coming down quick. I know you folks have done some remarkable work in the area. Can you synopsize for the moment what your ADS-B offerings are about and where people can get more information on that?
So, in summary, I mean, you sat through the new product introductions. Everybody's doing ADS-B, and then one other thing you notice is everybody's got a different take on what ADS-B, how it should be used. ADS-B in, out, with or without GPS, all the things that are associated with it. So our strategy is, we know what our market is. We know that everybody has different types of equipment, so we want options for people to be able to have ADS-B in and out. We are strong believers in ADS-B in and the advantages of that. We think the weather and the traffic are huge advantages to ADS-B in.
Amen.
And I think that people that diminish that are not really paying attention, to be quite honest with you. But having said that, some people have lost GPSs on the airplanes, some people don't. Some people want to have redundant GPSs because they don't want to lose their navigation GPS and lose their ADS-B navigation GPS. So we try to provide as many options as possible for somebody to have ADS-B in, UAT, world, 1090 world, with and without GPSs. We want some people to have the ability to just receive only because they have an extended squitter already on their airplane, so we have as a receive only. Our strategy is to look at all the different airplane configurations and find every possible configuration and make sure there's an ADS-B solution for it.
Excellent.
And today we have a current line of products, and I would hint to you that product line is going to grow. We don't build our own ADS-Bs. We've chosen to third-party our ADS-Bs. Considering all the competitors, we're really happy we made that decision. But as a result, that gives us options. And it gives us options, the ability to use different solutions. And our role is to make sure that our customers have those, and then provide them the display capability to show that on their primary
Nice part
displays.
of that too is as newer and better or more capable technology shows up, you can adopt very quickly that way.
Oh yeah, I mean, just look at the changes you've seen just in the last half year of the different people coming to the market and the different possible solutions and integrate in with the iPad or pet tablets. I think you're going to continue to see evolution in that particular area.
Outstanding.
And we're going to try to keep up with it as best we can.
2 quick questions. And we'll let you get out of here and go find the popcorn. Can we expect news for Lakeland, and can we expect news for Oshkosh?
You should expect some news out of Aspen at both cases. We expect to have some big news in Lakeland, but I will only tease you that far. But you'll see some interesting news about Aspen in general, as well as product information.
Outstanding.
We are really very happy about where we are today, and we see a lot of opportunity in the future.
Outstanding. John, thanks so much
Thanks,
for your
appreciate
time.
it.
We
Always
sure appreciate
fun, Jim.
it.
Thank you.
Aero-News Network's coverage of the 58th Annual AEA International Convention and Trade Show, live from Dallas, Texas, is brought to you in part by the following sponsors.
Now certified, Aspen Avionics single-band ADS-B ATX100 and ATX100G transceivers are the next-gen ADS-B solution that provides the features pilots need while keeping flyaway costs low. Check it out now at aspenavionics.com.
Avidyne provides innovative avionics solutions for general aviation aircraft, including the IFD 540 and IFD 440 FMS GPS navcoms with geofill, hybrid touch, and full ADS-B capability.
The KSN 770 is an affordable, WAS-enabled integrated MFD with a flexible hybrid user interface from Bendix King. Get your fingers on the 770's perfect blend of touchscreen and hard buttons. Easily control your GPS navigation, navcom, weather, traffic, and terrain in any condition. For more information, go to bendixking.com.
HeliSAS from Genesis Aerosystems is the FAA-certified, cost-effective, and reliable stability augmentation system and two-axis autopilot for light to medium helicopters. HeliSAS offers significant safety-enhancing benefits and still weighs less than 12 pounds. Visit www.genesis-aerosystems.com.
An interactive links application is available in the Apple and Android app stores. This free app is a virtual simulation of the Lynx NGT 9000 touchscreen cockpit display that lets pilots interact with the unit as if they had a real system in their hands. The app covers the entire Lynx family of ADS-B products, including features and options to help customers decide which Lynx model is right for their needs.
Meet SAM, the new 2-inch standby attitude module from Mid-Continent Instruments and Avionics. SAM's unique 2-screen display features high-definition graphics and extra-wide viewing angles. Get to know SAM today. Visit flysam.com.
NavWorks makes ADS-B affordable. Certified or experimental, NavWorks gives you high-quality next-gen avionics solutions that dramatically increase your situational awareness. Check us out now on the web at www.navworks.com.
The debate is no longer about upgrading GA aircraft with NextGen, it's about financing it. The NextGen GA Fund is about doing just that. Find out more at www.nextgenfund.com.